Hi Year 10, we're going to start looking at your work on the poetry anthology. You should have received this in the post with your Year 10 report. It looks like the image on the screen at the moment. If you haven't, then you need to print the Manhunt poem in the email attachment. If you flip to the contents page, you'll see there are 3 collections: relationships, conflict, and time and place. We will be looking at the relationships collection. If you flip to the relationships contents page, you'll see there are 15 poems. We're going to start with the Manhunt on page 20, so you need to turn to page 20. We're going to follow the same process looking at each of the poems so that it makes it a little bit easier for you and it might build up your independence at looking at poems in the future. So we'll begin looking at the title, The Manhunt. I'd like you to create a mind map or bullet pointed list of any connotations or associations linked to this poem's title. And I want you to use the questions to guide your thinking. These are colour coded. So the green one is the easy one. Can you label the types of words? The yellow one is the medium one. What might this poem be about? And the red one is the hard one. From whose perspective might it be? I'd like you to pause this video now and complete this task. So hopefully you started pulling apart this title. The types of words, hopefully you've realised that manhunt is a noun. Some of you might have realised that there is a definite article, which is fantastic, meaning it's a specific manhunt rather than any manhunt. Think about what the poem might be about. The word hunt is in there, suggesting a chase or maybe violence. The fact it's got manhunt in there, are they hunting a man? Has it got something to do with criminals? These are all valid ideas or suggestions. Obviously we don't know yet, but this is to help you gain your own personal response to a poem. And thinking about whose perspective might it be from, you need to start thinking about different relationships because it's part of the relationships cluster. So could it be a family relationship? Is it a father and son? Is it a husband and wife? Is it a grandparent talking to their grandchild? So thinking about these different types of relationships and who might be talking. Now we'll have a look at the poem so we can figure out what is relevant from exploring the title. So I'd like you to read through the poem and write a brief summary of what you believe the poem is about. Again, there are questions at the bottom. What does the imagery suggest? From whose perspective might it be? Is there more than one theme? I'd like you to pause the video now and have a go at this task. This time round, I'm going to show you a selection of images so you can see the outline of a man. You can see a couple cuddling in army clothing. Having a little look through these images, and then I'm going to get you to reread the poem. So you can see a soldier crying, a heart. This is a fetus, a picture of a baby scan, metal bullets, and a mine that has exploded. Okay, so that's like a bomb you find under the ground and you might tread on it and it explodes, but you can't see it. So now I'd like you to reread the poem and write about what you think the poem is about now. So pause this video and complete that task. What is it all about then? So Simon Armitage is the poet. So he is the person who wrote it, but he's not writing it from his own perspective. He has written it from Laura's perspective, so the woman you can see on the screen in the middle. So he's written it from the point of view of a woman, and she is talking about her husband, Eddie. Eddie has been involved in the war and is suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You can see some of the damage on his face, where there's a scar on his chin. So he's come back from the war, and Armitage has has interviewed Laura and spoken to her and Eddie and pretended to be her within this poem. So I'm writing on this page now, so if you'd like to pause the video and make any notes, you can do that. Here is some additional context. I will add these links into the description at the top of the video, or figure out how to put them on the video so that you can look at more context and you can actually see Laura reading the poem. Okay, now we're going to move on to the analysis of the imagery in the manhunt. So each of these images represents damage inflicted on Eddie. I want you to see if you can match these images to the imagery used in the poem. So going through, identifying what the image might be and finding the relevant quotation within the poem. So pause this video and complete this task. Okay, so now you can self-assess. You can see a lot of the images matched up to the quotations. I'll explain one or two of them here for you. So the frozen river, probably a scar or tears. The hinge is the hinge on a door, the mechanism that opens and closes the door. So if that's broken, you need to think about the jaw opening and closing. If that's broken as well, maybe his form of communication is damaged. The damaged porcelain. Porcelain is a very breakable ceramic material. So you don't really want your bones to be able to break as easily as this. The rudder, the fractured rudder. A rudder is on the back of a ship, and when you want to change direction, you use this to change direction of the ship. The fetus of metal beneath his chest, so fetus is an unborn baby. This idea that the metal is being compared to a baby, so maybe this damage is growing within him. But don't forget, he is a man and he can't have children. The rungs represent the rungs in a ladder, so looking at the broken ribs, and maybe he's at the feeling like he's at the bottom of something and he can't climb out. And we have the sweating unexploded mine. So like I said earlier, you saw the picture of it blowing up. You can't actually see this from the surface, but it is there and it could go off at any time. Maybe that is talking about his own mind. So what I'd like you to do now is go a little bit further with some of this analysis. You've found and identified the literary devices, but you need to explore the writer's intended effect by exploring the connotations and meanings associated with relevant quotations. And you can see that I have completed this for you with the first image of the frozen river on the right hand side. So the frozen river which ran through his face, and then this is my analysis in the red. The soldier's face is disfigured. Imagery of a glacier, so glacier is like ice, to describe the solid, immobile, heavy scar tissue. Could also represent frozen tears down his face. We've also got the adjective frozen, could link to his coldness and lack of expression, possibly, because he's holding everything in, or he's trying not to deal with all the heartache and horrific images he might have seen and been through. And thirdly, maybe his emotion and love for his partner are frozen, but there is hope that the river can be thawed to run freely. So maybe there's hope within this, that Laura and Eddie together might be able to thaw the pain, thaw the communication, and find some form of normality back into their relationship. So see if you can do this with some of the other quotes. So you need to pause this video now to complete that task. To help you check your understanding, there is a website that talks you through the poem and each line. Again, I'll put this link at the top, or see if I can put it in the video for you to click. If you go on this website, just put your mouse over the highlighted grey bits and it will go yellow and it will tell you the meaning on the right hand side. Now we'll have a look at structure. So here are 4 new words, new vocabulary, although we've looked at some of them before, and I want you to see if you can match up the word to the correct definition. So if you've got a scrap piece of paper, that'd be ideal. So for a couple, you just put down 1 point and then you can put A, B, C or D, whichever definition you think matches. So we're looking at couplet, fragmentation, post-traumatic stress disorder and phases. So you'll need to pause this and have a go at that task. So self-assessing, so looking through at the definitions of each of these words. So number one, couplet is paired with be. We've looked at this a little bit in Romeo and Juliet. So a pair of successive lines of verse, typically rhyming and of the same length. So you'll notice that the poem is written in couplets, so 2 lines all the way down. Couplet sounds like couple, couple is 2. Fragmentation is a state of being broken into pieces, fragmented. So thinking about how Eddie is fragmented now, a little bit broken, a little bit split into pieces. We've got post-traumatic stress disorder, an anxiety disorder caused by stressful or frightening or distressing events. So war would do that to you. And then we've got phases. A distinct period or stage in a process of change. So you're thinking about the change that is shown within the poem, within the structure. At the beginning, they're intimate, and then when he comes back from the war, it's how they try and get together. Laura tries to help him fix. He's very gentle and kind with the verbs. Armitage is kind with the verbs he uses to help describe how Laura tries to help Eddie. So thinking about structure, grab a scrap piece of paper and I want you to have a go at answering these questions. So number one, how many couplets are there? Okay, hopefully you figured out there are 13. Why do you think the poem is split into 13 couplets? Okay, so the connotations of 13, maybe it's an odd number, so it's not even, the relationship might be at odds, or you might be thinking about the unluckiness of the number 13. I think you've all seen horror films that you probably shouldn't have, like Friday the 13th, and the danger associated with that number. So is Eddie and Laura unlucky? Do the couplets rhyme? Okay, the couplets don't rhyme. Well, 1 or 2 do rhyme. There's trace and face, but mostly they don't rhyme. However, some of the words are similar. So at one point you've got heart and hurt. They don't rhyme, but they begin with the same letter. They begin with a H. And right at the very end of the poem, you've got closed and close. These words are very similar. So is it showing that there is hope for them? They are finding a way back together to communication, or because it doesn't rhyme, are they fragmented? This is some of your own personal decisions to make looking at this poem. Finally, why do you think some of the couplets do not rhyme? Okay, and I'll let you think about the answer to that one, and you can use that in the next task. So, putting everything together about structure, I'd like you to copy out the paragraph and fill in the missing words. The words are at the top. Or your challenge is to explain the structure of the poem in your own words. I'm going to pause the video now so that, well, you're going to pause the video now so you can complete this task. Finally, is this poem a love poem or a poem about war? And which category do you think this poem fits into? I'd like you to email me your answers and the rewards. The reward will be top answers will receive achievement points, or I might find something better to send you in the post. And overall, thank you for taking part in this learning experiment. Email me if you think it was good, or if there's bits that you really struggled with, or you want me to do in a different format. Thanks very much, Tim.